Okay, hello, good morning. Let's see. We were building our current week backlog list, and we have our weekday picker here, and we got in the active weekdays. That's nice. So I thought we could start by just cleaning this up a little bit. So we're going to have this avatar thing where we pass in the UID, and it kind of gives us back this avatar kind of circly thing. So maybe we can just build a simple version of that. And the way this should work is that it should use the UID to actually create a color, or maybe it should use a name. Do we have the name in the state? Oh, this is Codesandbox. Let's see. Yeah, so we do have the current profile, but we don't have a family here. We only have the profile. So if I remember correctly, when we have a family, we download that family, so it becomes like its own authentication state. Yeah, but we do have the name there. Okay, so for now we're going to look at the profile, and then we're going to use the name to create a color. Let's try to do that. I don't quite remember how this works. JS convert string to color. For an arbitrary string. Yes, I think that's probably adaptation. That consistently returns a 6-digit color code. Okay, maybe we should try this one instead. Get hash code. Color. I want a similar richness in colors for HTML elements. Yeah, but what's the difference? Okay, we'll try this one first, and this is something that can be improved later. So I guess we'll put this into, yeah. So we're going to use this specifically. Yes, we're going to use this utility across different things. We're going to do it to color the weekdays. We're going to use it to color the avatar. So the question is, how do we deal with this? I guess we should actually pass in the profile itself to, or maybe we should pass in the color. Yeah, I think we should pass in the color, because I don't want the, so we have this weekday picker. I don't want the weekday picker to be know anything about the profile, because it just receives the days and then it changes those days. It doesn't care about the profile. And the same for the avatar. It shouldn't care about the profile. So what we need to do is expose a utility that allows us to deal with that. Yes. Let's see. So we're going to export string to color. Like that. And now we're going to use that utility. You know, I think I'm going to change the documentation of Overmind to not have this Overmind folder, like rather call it app or something, because it's kind of weird that we have this string to color utility in an Overmind folder, because it's strictly not related to, like, Overmind is very specific to the tool you're using, but conceptually it's your app, or the backend of your app. So yeah, I want to change that. Anyways, I don't want to do that now, but let's see here. So we have string to color. So we can try this on the weekday picker first. So we have our weekday picker, and we should pass in a color here. And this color, where are the props? There they are. That's the string. And we want that color. So here we are saying active. Yeah, so we need to do this dynamically now, which means that we don't really have an active variant anymore. Let's see. We rather need to use, we have this CSS property where we can say background, oops. I guess this should really be a style tag, because we don't really want to produce CSS for this. There's no reason to like inject it and stuff. We can just inline it. And that's the thing about dealing with CSS and inline styling. It's like you don't really want dynamic behavior in CSS because you can't always control the number of class names that's created. So for example, you would never, if you had like dynamic width related to how you move your mouse or something like that, or like the size of something, there's like an unlimited number of CSS classes that could be created as each width produces a new class name. But with an inline style, that wouldn't matter. Like it just overrides the style. So I think it's a good rule of thumb is that dynamic behavior, you use a style. And then when you create static styling, like we do up here, you use class names or something that produces class names. Anyways, so yes. So we want to, if that is true, we want to use the color, or we don't want to use anything. No. Oh, undefined. Cool. Okay, so now we pass in a color there. Let's take a look at our backlog item. So here we do have access to the profile. Now the thing is, we want to, I think we should introduce a derived here, because we don't know if you have a family or not, and we don't want to check that in all the components. We basically just want to, okay, give me the name of the profile, or this UID. That UID coming from the actual profile, or it coming from the family. So that's what we're going to do, because a family object is like UIDs with names, basically. But if you don't have a family, we grab it from the profile, and we don't want to think about that in the components. So we're going to go into auth and then state, and we're going to introduce a new state there. So when you are authenticated, we're going to introduce, what are we going to call it? Members, names, or maybe profiles. Okay, let's call it profiles. And that profiles will be the UID, and then I believe we just use the name. I don't think we need any other information. Yeah. I think that's okay. Okay, so then we have profiles, which means, and this is kind of interesting, related to typing and the state machine, because when we move into the authenticated state now, we are actually saying that we have profiles, but that's not necessarily true. Because when we move into that state, let's see, on auth changed, if user, where do we move into authenticated? Yeah, here we move into authenticated, and then we set this stuff, but we have to make sure that we actually comply with the typing, because this could be undefined when you're authenticated unless we actually set it. And this is the my iPad. I'm just going to plug in some electricity to my iPad. Anyways, and this is the really tricky thing with all this typing and transitioning between states, because there's no like direct link between the typing and the state itself, which kind of annoys me. Yeah, it really does annoy me. It's kind of like what like, okay, so let's explore this a little bit, because what we ideally wanted to do is when we want to like tie the state to the transition, which means that ideally when you do this transition, you should also produce the state. That's really what should happen. That's really interesting, because what we could do with the typing here is that here we could type what do you need to insert here to make sure that this new authenticated state actually works. So what we would, this callback would be called synchronously if we were able to move into the authenticated state. And then here we would actually put the user and the profile, and it would require us to insert profiles as well, because this returned object here needs to be the state of the authenticated. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we should do that. And then, yeah, I wonder what that does with the rest of this. This is interesting. Because what you could get here, you couldn't get the current state. That wouldn't make sense because you don't know what the current state is. Well, I guess you could ask, like you could have like current state. And then you could kind of check. You could use the matches API to check, okay, if I'm in this state, I want to return this new state. If I'm in this state, I want to return this new state. So that would be possible. But yeah, there's no use case for that yet. So what would this do with the code? So we're transitioning, we're getting back that thing. We would still check if it's there. Because that, like, this callback wouldn't run if it wasn't a valid transition. And then, yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. What would it do with the other stuff? So yeah, on unauthenticated, we would do the same. We would actually insert the error as part of the return state, because that would ensure that we actually set the state that's required for unauthenticated. This makes a lot of sense to me. And then if you actually want to perform like a side effect related to that. Wait, are we moving back to the other API now? We are, aren't we? Huh. Okay, but again, this is how it goes. Like, we iterate and we explore and we try to figure out, well, how to do things. So anyways, we want to do two different things here. We want to change state and we want to run a side effect, which is this dispose backlog stream. So what if we did this? And then the first thing we need to do is to return the new state. So the error would then be error.message. So this is typed, right? It's typed to the unauthenticated, and ensuring that we're actually setting the state to what is a valid state for that transition. Now the question is, how would we deal with side effects? Would we just run it inside this callback and then still return the state transition? So for example, in this case, would we just do this and then we return the state? And then we would just run it here. I don't think so, because then you have this situation. Because you might do new stuff here. New pieces of logic. In this case, you're transitioning to home again, which means that now you're in. So what if you transitioned again inside here? Well, it would run the, yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I don't think it's wise to. I don't think it's wise to do side effects inside that thing, because you want that to run synchronously. How should that work? Okay, so what if we only return the state there? How would that look? And then we would check, did we actually transition? And then we do the side effects. But like, it doesn't really protect you in the API. You could still just run this. So there's like no protection in the API surface itself. It's very discipline based. Yeah. Because we were like, here we were totally focused on making the typing work. Yeah, but this is interesting. This returning the state, this is just a different way to think about it. And it opens up some possibilities. But again, the question is, where do you run the side effects? So you could, oh, this is interesting. So what if the first, okay, let's move back to what we had here. So what if the first argument is, okay, if this unauthenticated transition is valid, run this function, which returns the new state. And then we have another function, which is, this is running any further logic related to that transition. So maybe we should move up and look at this example up here, because this is more complex. So the way this would work, oh, sorry. What's this? Authenticated. So the way this would look is we would just say user, and we would say profile, and it would require us to say profiles like this. And then this piece of logic would now be put into this second callback. And what's interesting about this is that now suddenly we have back our hook for exit. Because where is that exit thing? Now we did like, so when we unauthenticate, or, oh, sorry, no. When we move out of, yeah, this is interesting. So when we move out of authenticated, we want to dispose of some stuff. So here we start streaming the backlog, and now we could actually say return, and then we would dispose of these two things. Yeah, you can even see it here. I've forgotten to dispose of the stream weekdays. Dispose stream weekdays. So what this basically means, yeah, so there's one thing I still don't like about this. there's one thing I still don't like about this, and that is, what if I wanted to use the user here? I would not be able to say state.auth.user. That wouldn't work. So this is the, I guess this is the bad thing about typing and mutation. Because when you have mutation, you're allowed to do this because we're mutating the auth object. But if we didn't have mutation, it would make sense to kind of get the new state here, current. And then it will kind of, so you get like the latest state there. Yeah. So you would kind of say auth state. But again, so for like, if you weren't using TypeScript, you could still like point to the state wherever. Yeah, and then we have this issue. So here we want to transition to home, but we don't have, we don't do any state changes. We just do side effects. And then you will kind of do null, and then you would have a callback. I don't know. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that is okay. But all this is driven by typing, right? So it would kind of be like, this is interesting. Thinking. So what we could do is like, when you do this transition, it's valid. We enable mutations and we run this callback, which does a mutation, and then we run this callback, which then prevents mutations. So you're not allowed to change anything here. You're only allowed to run side effects. That's interesting. Yeah, because then to do anything, you actually have to run a new transition, because that would open up for mutation again. Oh, this is interesting. So you get a way more strict management of when are you allowed to change the state and when you're not allowed to change the state. I think we should try this. I can make a change and put it into like the next branch of Overmind just to test it. Okay, so the benefit here is we get typing to ensure that whenever we transition, we build the state that is required for that transition state, or like the new state. So in this case, we weren't sure that we actually had profiles. Like TypeScript tells us that we have profiles, but because we manually add the new state after a valid transition, it wasn't ensured that that was there. But now with this callback, it ensures that. Now, the second good thing about this is that we only open for mutations during this callback. So when we run the second callback, which is considered side effects of that transition, we give it the first argument is the auth state in this case, which is now typed to the authenticated state. And then you aren't allowed to do any mutations here. You can't do anything. It's about the side effects. You have to call a new action, or you have to run a new transition, and so on. And the second thing that it allows us to do is to, in this effects callback, we are allowed to return a function which disposes whenever we go out of the authenticated state, which is a really nice feature of state machines. Yeah. Okay, maybe there's something I'm not thinking about here, but we are in parallel, like we're doing many things in parallel here. But one of them is doing this thing we're doing now, exploring a good state machine API for Overmind. Yeah, let's just do this. I don't know. I guess we can start doing it. Let's see. Overmind. Oh. Oops. That's not what I was supposed to go to. I was supposed to open a new window. Let's see. Overmind. Oh, what's this? Oh, what have I been working on here? What is all this stuff? On initialize. Oh, sorry, this is the Overmind. Yeah, we can just reset all this. Cool. Nice. So let's look. What we can do, we can write the typing for it. We have time for that. State machine. Okay, so we have our matches, which should still work the same, I guess. Yeah. That should still work the same. Okay. Though we did talk about having like multiple matches. If that... yeah, so like having this thing instead. So you get like multiple... How would this work? Extend like T0, I think. Oh, T extends. Something like that. We'll explore that. Because what happens now is that if we send multiple states, I think it resolves to an array where any index can be any of those states. I think that's what it resolves to. So if we do T0, it means that it can be any of the states passed in. I don't quite remember. We'll figure that out. Let's try that. And then we have this transition. So this is going to become more complex now. So we are going to... I guess we're not going to return anything anymore. Yeah. Because what we're going to do instead is we're going to have state callback or mutations or state callback. And this state callback should now return the, let's see, states. Yeah, let's see. We need to do it needs to return it's yeah, so the state callback needs to return. Oh, but now we're saying it also needs to return the state itself, which it doesn't. Okay, so extends. Okay, so we need to omit the actual state because we don't want to do that. That's something we do with the transition. We want to return all the other states other than the actual state property, because that's being set by the state machine itself. Okay. And then we have this optional, I guess both of these are optional. Like, why would you transition without, well, I guess you can transition without making a state change. And then we have effects callback. And that effects callback should now receive a state machine. Let's see. State machine, which is actually the state we have transitioned to. What's it complaining about? Is it just because we don't have? Yeah. Oh, I thought I had prettier here. Don't I have prettier? Oh, that sucks. Okay, so you get the state machine here, and then you can either return undefined, like, or void, or you can return a function that returns void, which is the exit. Okay, so this is our signature now. Oh, it must be kind of annoying for people using the state machine API with these changes. Like, we don't know if we're actually going to introduce these changes. We'll just test it in our app first. And then, yeah, we'll see how it works, if it makes it better, because we have found something that makes it better, but like, is a total experience better? That's the question. Yes. So I will, I might implement this during the weekend, just because it's fun. And then on Monday, we can try to refactor our app and try this new API. I think that's a good way forward. Yes. I would love to start implementing this now, but I have to do some work. So I'll guess we'll leave it at that, and then I'll see you again on Monday, I think. Yes. Okay, cool. Thanks for following along. See you later.